I think spend your 20s exploring.
Yeah, that's great advice.
And exploring, learning,
I think taking risks, calculate risks, right? Don't be reckless, but you don't have as much to lose in your 20s as you do as you get older.
Yeah.
When you have a family or people that rely on you and things like that, you know?
Yeah.
How you spend your 20s is how you're going to set up your next decade.
Welcome to the Magnetic Mismatch Show. My name is Linda.
And this is Will, the real star of the show.
Boo.
Oh, wow. Okay. I see you. People are like crickets, chirping, awkward silence. You went straight for the booing. Damn. Okay.
At least I'm honest.
You. At least you're honest. You can't keep using that line.
It's my favorite line.
So how's your weekend going?
It's going well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How so? You feel relaxed? You feel like you've been productive?
Been very productive.
Yeah. I feel like it's funny when you have a productive weekend, you just feel good versus the other side, which is potatoing all weekend, which I do very well.
I like some potatoing.
Yeah, we can both veg out, when we want to.
For a couple of hours in a day. It's nice.
You're a busybody though. You like to keep moving, doing something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But with that being said, what's today's topic, love?
Today's topic is what we wish we knew in our 20s.
Ooh, fun topic.
Yeah, but we're focusing more on career because it's a pretty big topic, right? Because it's a whole decade.
Where do I start?
Worth of knowledge and experiences that we've experienced.
Failures.
Success.
Yes.
There's success too.
Yeah. Important lessons, takeaways.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we hope that, by sharing this, what we've learned, what mistakes we've made, if you're listening, hopefully you can take something valuable away from it and help you out as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So take us back. Think about our 20s. That wasn't that long ago, though, for me.
No.
Try to sneak that in there.
In our 20s, I think a lot of things happened in our 20s. A lot of growing up happened in our 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really speak for 30s because I'm just in the early.
Oh my God.
Early 30s.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot of lessons, but not like, whole decades worth of growth, right? And I feel like in your 20s, it's a moment that kind of defines and sets a foundation.
Yeah.
For your career and just the path you take in life. But with that being said, in my 20s, looking back now, I was just a confused person. I lacked clarity. And I felt like I was just doing, what I think other people wanted me to do or what I should do or what society tells me I should do.
Right. I can totally relate to that. I think most people can, after you graduate and you go through school, because up until that point, you're pretty much told, right? Like what you're supposed to do, or they give you a linear path. You go to school, you go to middle school, right? You go from elementary school to middle school, then middle school to high school, then to college, and then you get a job, right? Pretty straightforward. You kind of know exactly what that path is. But then afterwards, I think even after graduating college, you're supposed to get a job, but then it's like, what do you want to do, quote unquote, for the rest of your life? You know what I mean? Yeah. What do you want out of life?
See, that's a scary thought. It's like you pick a career that you're supposed to do for the rest of your life.
Oh, my God.
When you're 18 years old, fresh out of high school.
Yeah.
Like, how are you supposed to know? And the thing is that people change over time.
Exactly.
Your interest changes over time. But the question is, I always ask myself, how are you supposed to know?
Right.
You don't. And I think that's where the lack of clarity came in, is because I thought I had to go through this path, and
Mm-hmm.
go for like a stable career, a stable field.
Right.
But I never gave myself the chance to try other things.
To experiment, to play, to just
Yeah.
figure out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of us, myself included, like I was on the same boat as you where it wasn't, I didn't even think about that. Like, let me just go try a bunch of different fields of work, different career paths, just sample, right? Start sampling everywhere and see if there's something that actually interests me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you pick your major and then you just go focusing on that, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll have a couple of elective classes here and there, but I don't know. I don't think I spent enough time sampling, you
Yeah.
know?
Same. Agreed.
Mhm.
And even the volunteer work that I did, or the part-time work that I did in college, it was all geared towards going to a certain field.
Right, preparing you for that field of work.
Yeah. So I wish I would have explored and tried other things that are outside of my field to kind
Yeah.
of have an idea of what I do like and what I don't like. Because the nice thing about college is that you can always change your major.
Right.
I mean, not like, third or fourth year, but at least your first 2 years is mostly just general education.
And there's wiggle room, right?
There's
For you
wiggle
to,
room, yeah, because
yeah.
they kind of overlap on
Mhm.
credits and units
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I wish I used the first 2 years to kind of find myself versus, going through an entire program and then
Finding out that,
finding out that maybe this is not everything I wanted it to
yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the problem, I think the problem that I didn't really try other things was because, obviously influences around me. Because, when you go to college and you pick a major, all of your friends or the people you meet are geared towards going, to the same kind of area of line of work.
Mhm.
So when you see them doing something, you kind of copy them because you feel like the pressure, because that's who you're quote unquote competing against.
Right.
So you want to have like a resume or something that matches theirs or even a little more, right?
Sure.
So you it prevents you from thinking outside of the box and going, okay, I'm a try this, something else outside the field, but then you feel like, wait, if I do that, it doesn't count as much as if I did something in the field.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
knowing
yeah.
what I know now, though,
Right.
I felt like it's good to have experiences outside of your field, because you carry that knowledge into a different field and you see things in a different perspective.
Yeah, that's huge. Because sometimes I think when there's this whole thing about like specializing what you do. And yeah, it for sure, right? You want to have an area of focus, but like you're saying too, having other experiences from other completely different things, drawing from those areas and applying it to maybe that specific, another industry, it's super powerful, right? Because otherwise, sometimes we get so focused narrowly on that one thing that we're studying, and then we don't really see everything else, or we can't expand from that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I do agree with you. That's a pretty important lesson, and of course, you learned that later on.
Yeah.
Now looking back,
Yeah. I think I learned that after a couple years into my career.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Because you know what, in my 20s, I think I carried the same value as I did in my teens and earlier years, because, growing up with immigrant parents, they're so focused on just getting good grades, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even in high school, I remember when I wanted to get a job or do something else besides going to school, my parents were so against it, because they were afraid that my grades were going to slip.
Right.
So that kind of carried with me, through college, is that everything was geared towards getting good grades.
Hmm. Grades meant everything.
Yeah, more than experiences.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just what we thought back then, right? Or what we believed, because that's what we all we knew. We didn't have the benefit of hindsight, after living through life and being in the workforce, being in, being like 10 years later after graduating or whatever. Uh, well, maybe not 10 years for you, but,
No.
having life experiences. And now hopefully smarter and wiser.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's something for sure I wish I knew back then. I think also something that plays a role with that is during my 20s for me, I was a lot more shy and introverted. And I think part of being that way, it that fear prevented me from trying things because I would always be fearful of, like, if I go to this new group, right, then I'm afraid, like, are they going to accept me? It would even, like, this is kind of crazy when you think about it, like, I'm already building up all this fear and doubt in my head before I've even tried that thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do I know if I'm going to like it or not? How do I know if the people are going to be friendly or not? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get that. I think for me, there is always a fear. What if I suck?
Yeah, that
Right?
too. That's
It's
huge.
because, growing up at home, there's like, there's, or with the people around me, there's always some type of pressure to live up to certain standards
Expectation.
and
Yeah.
expectations.
Yeah.
And, that's always a fear of mine is what if you suck?
What if you're not good enough? What if you look like a fool, right? Because
Yeah.
you're trying this new thing. And the
Yeah.
reality is you are probably going to suck. You
Yeah.
are going
And that's
to, and you're
okay.
supposed to, right? Because if you anything new you try, you're not going to be a master at, you
No,
know?
no.
But that, to me, that's one of the things when I look back is like, I wish I would have spent more time learning to overcome those fears, to get over myself, basically. Like, it's not about like being so afraid that it cripples you from doing things that maybe you have an interest in or that you're curious about, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things in the past, like in my 20s, that I was like, oh, that looks cool. I want to try that. But then I'm like, I scare myself out of it. You know what I mean? Before I even try one thing, it's like, I don't even give myself a chance.
Yeah.
And that's the issue.
Yeah.
So if I could do it all over again, that would be one thing. It's like learning how to overcome those fears.
Yeah.
hmm And I think part of that is being able to maybe surround myself a little bit more with people. Just, I don't know, work on myself, self development, you think?
Yeah. I think that's the one thing I didn't do in my 20s.
Yeah.
I didn't spend any time really understanding what I wanted
Yeah. That's
or
huge.
surrounding myself with people other than my peers.
Right.
Right? I didn't get a chance to talk to people in other majors or in
Really?
other
Yeah.
career paths
Yeah.
because I didn't dorm when I went to
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
I stayed at home.
So everybody was like, when you went to class, it was the same
It was the
classes,
same people.
same people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I mean, like, I don't think got as much pressure into going to, a certain field by my parents because, for them at the end of the day, I have to give it to them. They were pretty relaxed. Like,
hmm
they wanted me to be happy.
Yeah.
The
You
only thing they really cared about
free
was,
range child.
yeah, the only thing they really cared about was when I was in high school, right?
Yeah.
To get good grades because they thought that's what I had to do. But once I got to college and stuff,
They
they just
eased
wanted,
up.
yeah, they eased up. They just wanted me to be happy.
Yeah.
You know them. That's how
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Yeah. They are.
But I think I got a lot of pressure from other family
I
members
see.
who pushed me into certain career paths, and the fact that I didn't develop myself or work on myself to build like a strong mental foundation
Yeah.
on being able to kind of filter the information, think for myself, explore and weigh, learn how to weigh your options. I think that's what caused me to just follow,
Give in. Yeah.
just give in and do
Yeah.
what
Because it's easier.
it's easier.
Right.
And in my 20s, I thought, well, I mean, they always come from a good place, right? It's
Yeah.
never malicious.
Yes.
So, and the fact that they're older, I thought,
They had the answers.
they had the answers. They knew the
Right.
answers. But maybe that's not the case.
Maybe it's not. Maybe they have the right answers for them, but it doesn't mean that the advice that they give is going to be the same for you, right? Or the same value for you, because you're a completely different person. Maybe it worked for them and they want to
Yeah.
help you, right? Because like you said, they're coming from a good place, but your values or what you want might be different. And we just assume that someone that's older, that has more life experience, that automatically they know better for us, which is, like you said, not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of time and energy and work for us to work on ourselves to figure out what we want. I think it starts there, really knowing and defining exactly what you want from life, your goals, and write it out. Because we didn't really do that.
No.
Not not in our 20s.
Yeah. But looking back now, I can't fully just blame it all on them, right? It's kind of my fault for not
Oh yeah, that's what.
doing the self-development as well. And the other problem is that I was moving 100 miles an hour. I was
Yeah.
just moving to move,
Mm-hmm.
because silence in my 20s was very uncomfortable to me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to listen to my thoughts. And, when I had feelings of, wait, maybe you should try something else, or maybe you should do something.
Ah,
I get scared and I don't listen to those thoughts, and
like
I
your
just
intuition.
keep moving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, then that's a way to cope with it, right? Let me just push down those feelings like that you have deep down. That's like your intuition, your gut telling you, maybe we need to think about this.
Yeah. But that's the one thing I learned. That's why in my 30s, I allow myself to have quiet time.
Mm-hmm.
And I do things thoughtfully and deliberately.
Yeah.
I don't just do things just to do something.
Because I think it feels good too, right? You feel like you're making progress when you're busy.
Yeah. But that's not necessarily true.
Exactly. Just
Yeah.
because you're busy doesn't mean you're moving forward, right? With where you want to be and what those goals might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the problem with moving 100 miles an hour as well is you don't really get to enjoy the process.
Exactly.
And you don't really learn from the process. It's because you're moving so fast, you don't see the lessons that are there
Yeah,
for
you
you.
miss things.
You miss things. And that's the one thing I learned, is that by slowing down, I am able to evaluate the situation better, and I'm able to get, see takeaway lessons
Mm-hmm.
and not repeat the same mistakes. Or if it's a success, I'm able to pinpoint why it was successful and learn from it
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
true. Yeah. I think that I definitely noticed that from you. Because I obviously knew you in your 20s, and it felt, and I brought it up, I think, to you before. I was like, I feel like sometimes you're just going, going, going. And for me, it was a different thing, though. It was like sniffing the flowers, right? Like really enjoying the moment. And,
But that's not true. You did do that, but that's after you had a burnout.
yes, I know. I was mentioning that was what I pointed out to
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm like,
then,
you only started doing that because you had a burnout
exactly,
in your 20s.
because I knew, like, for me later in my 20s, I burned out from my career. And I did, the crazy and dangerous part to me was that I didn't know I was burning out, because when I got into my line of work, it's building a business from scratch. And, you work a lot. You work even on the weekends. It's always on your mind. There's a lot of stress too involved with being a business owner, and when you're constantly moving, like you were too, you were grinding, you were
Yeah.
hustling. And I felt like part of that was also my upbringing. Just like if you're not moving if you're not hustling, you're not grinding,
You're not doing everything yourself.
yeah, you're not doing everything yourself, then you're either failing or you're not making progress or you're not going to be successful, whatever, right? All these little limiting beliefs and negative thoughts, right? And while you're working hard, and you should work hard, right? We're not saying take a chill, right?
Mhm.
But when you're doing that, I forgot to take care of myself. I forgot to take breaks and to slow things down from time to time to rejuvenate and recharge. And so I just kept running, kept moving, kept building, kept doing things. And then eventually I started hating what I was doing. I started being in bad moods. And you did not want to be around me when that
No,
happened.
no.
And I knew I was burning out when I would visit my parents, and normally I'm a very positive, happy guy, right? And I'd be in a good mood. And this time I was living with my mom uh, at home, and I after work usually I would come home and I'd be like singing or like humming or just like in a pot smiling, right? And then she started pointing out like, "Hey, what's going on? Like now you come home like you look like you're just mad or like you're just angry and you're not yourself. What's the deal here?" Right?
Yeah.
And then that's when she pointed out, I was like, "Oh, I didn't even notice that myself,"
Hmm.
right? And it was because I was burned out from going so fast and not giving myself a break, enjoying the moment and the process, and also really figuring out, is this the right path? Is this the path I should be taking? Right?
Hmm.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So it was an important lesson about sometimes, and this is why we every year we reflect, on the
Yeah.
year. We look back to help us to see and calibrate, where do we go going forward?
Yeah. I think ever since you and I started doing personal development together,
Yeah.
it's really helped a lot as well because I myself also had a burnout not too long ago.
Yours was more recent.
Yeah, and I was just in a rut. I no longer felt motivated.
Yeah.
And usually I'm such a goal
Yeah.
driven. It was just completely out of my
Character.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not motivated. I didn't want to do anything. I felt tired all the time. I didn't.
Mentally, physically
Yeah, I
exhausted.
just
Yeah.
didn't want to. I just didn't want to get up and do anything.
Yeah. You would. Yeah.
Even though I'm the type that's always wanting to do something,
Yeah.
and I'm such an energetic person that it's like sometimes it's like, how do you get all this energy?
Yeah. So
Right?
that's why when it was very obvious when things started shifting for you, because I'm
Mhm.
like, I noticed it too. I'm like, you're not this bouncing ball of energy. What's going on?
Yeah, and I was and I just felt like everything was crumbling. I know it sounds ridiculous, right?
No, I
Looking
get it.
looking from the outside in, but I just felt like, my life is falling apart. I don't know what I'm doing with myself.
Yeah.
Like where's the end point? Like I just didn't know, but ever since we started doing personal development together, and then I started, taking quiet time to evaluate my life and where I want to see my life go,
Yeah.
have much more clarity. I think, that's really helped kind of rebuild my passion, um,
Excitement and
excitement.
energy. And
Hmm.
yeah, you wake up looking forward, right, to the day.
Yeah, because I'm thankful that
Yeah.
there's another day to create.
Sure. And I think when you know what you want, it's much easier to get yourself to do the things to get that thing, right?
Hmm.
To take the right actions and do the right habits.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, and this was part of the burnout for me, was exactly like you're saying. You feel like you're doing things, you're keeping busy, you're doing work, but is it meaningful work? Is
Hmm.
it work that actually makes an impact? And you might burn yourself out just doing crap, right? Things that don't even get you anywhere, and you don't even know where you're steering the ship.
Yeah.
You know, you're
Yeah.
just aimless, and that is very tiring too. And sometimes you don't You just don't know. And that's the most dangerous part, in my opinion, about the burnout. Cause that crept up on you like out of nowhere. One day you were fine and then boom, like, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, what's going on? And you couldn't figure it out,
I
remember? And
couldn't
I
figure it out.
recognized it immediately. I'm like, dude, you're burning out.
Yeah. Because at some point it's like the materialistic things, it just doesn't, it's not,
It doesn't fill you
it
up
doesn't fill
anymore.
you up anymore. At first it was very exciting in the beginning of my career.
Yeah, because you went
To
from a broke college student to being able to actually buy stuff for
Yeah,
yourself.
nice things for myself and for my family. That
Yeah.
was very exciting. But then after that excitement went away
Yeah.
and I'm just grinding.
What's it for?
Yeah, there's no purpose left. And until I figured out what's my why,
Yes.
right? What's my why is when things started making sense again and the passion started coming back.
Yeah.
And now I strive for a grander scale of things.
Sure.
And it's exciting to see the possibilities.
Yeah. So that comes with like some of those lessons, right? Like you worked on yourself and your mindset, kind of worked on introspecting on yourself, what your own thoughts and reflection and all those things are. You slowed things down, right? To take the time to think and to
Exactly.
re-examine things. And I think also now you're more willing to also try other things, try different, right?
Definitely. I've tried other industries,
Yeah,
learn about other industries,
sure.
and not just so focused on just one.
Yeah,
And it's pretty exciting because, I feel like everything you learn from one industry carries on to the next.
yeah.
It's pretty good.
It
Pretty
builds on
cool.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, and I think another thing along with that was us learning how to ask and seek help. I think before in our 20s, it was, I don't know why, but it was just like it felt like you just wanted to do everything yourself. You wanted to figure it out by yourself. Um, and it's just not how you can get success.
Yeah. I think it's kind of ingrained into us because in school, you do the test yourself.
Yeah, you can't.
You get punished
Yes.
for answering the question wrong, right? Even though sometimes, you can kind of it could, the answers could go other ways.
Maybe
But
a creative way of looking at it.
yeah, but no, it's you have to think that way.
Linear.
Linear.
Yeah.
Memorize it. So that's the problem. And, we're the fact that we don't work together in school that often, you're taking every test, everything yourself.
Yeah.
It creates kind of like
Lone wolf.
yeah, and it's kind of ingrained in you.
Yeah.
Where, in the real life, that's not how it works. You can't do everything yourself and you're not good at everything.
No.
There are people that are a million times better than you. Delegate it to them.
Right.
Have them do it. That's their expertise. That's not your expertise. And that's okay. People make it really big for just being good at that one thing,
Mhm.
right? Or whatever you specialize in.
Yeah.
You don't have to do everything yourself. And that's how you burn yourself out too.
Yeah. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
It's not.
And you don't
learning.
create the best outcome when you try to do everything yourself.
You're spread too thin,
Yeah. And also maybe you're not good at whatever task that is.
That's just not your
There's a lot of
talent
pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pick the pieces you're good at and just do that.
Absolutely. So like in your 20s, being able to recognize that is huge, I think. If you can, the earlier you recognize that and learn that lesson, because I think a lot of times we're all control freaks,
Yeah, a little.
We want to do it ourselves because we think that we can do it the best way, right? When nobody else can do it like me.
Yeah.
So you're unwilling to give up that task. When in reality, if you can teach that person maybe to do it like you, in the beginning it sucks, right? They probably won't do it as good as you, but then over time, the more you spend training that person, helping that a person learn, the better it's going to be for you both down the line. I think also along those lines is like not just delegating things, but also seeking help in the form of learning from other people that have already what you want, right? Whether that's a certain lifestyle or a certain level of success or whatever, right? And seeking those people out, right?
Yeah.
Or learning, like reading their books, listening to their podcasts. Man, take advantage of that knowledge and all those cool things resources that we now have available that we didn't have decades ago.
Yeah. And just surround yourself with people that are smarter than you.
That's, man,
Yeah.
yeah. What a lesson,
You
right?
will learn so much from them.
Right. That's where you have to be very careful, and I think the mistake I know I made was in my 20s, I didn't really filter who I let in my life or who I was spending time with because I didn't even think about that at all. It was just like, oh, this person's fun or that person's cool or I can tolerate this
Yeah.
person, and even in some cases, if I couldn't tolerate them, I still let them hang around me. I don't know why. I didn't have the self confidence or the self respect or the knowledge that I have now to just cut certain people out because they were also, like you're saying, if you surround yourself with the right people, it's empowering. But if you surround yourself with the wrong people, it's very, very dangerous and disempowering. It's also very um, damaging to you as a person, and you don't even realize what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever had that experience where it was just like where you learned, okay, I need to be smarter about who I'm around, you
Yeah.
know?
I think that's I learned that in my 30s is to protect my time.
Yeah.
That is your most valuable asset.
Yep.
Everything else you can buy, everything else you can replace, but you cannot replace time.
Yeah.
Time is your most valuable asset.
Absolutely. That's so true. And I think in my 20s, I definitely squandered a lot of time doing things that weren't helping me, weren't helping other people. I was just focused on having fun and that was fine. But then, and we do need to have fun,
Of course,
right?
definitely.
But that was all I was doing was spending so much of my time, playing video games, watching movies, things like that, that weren't really helping me,
Hmm.
or building anything.
It's okay to do some of that,
Yeah,
but
I still enjoy video games and
I think
movies now.
you need to structure your time
Yeah,
to include everything
right.
you need to do, and then once you're done, then you can do everything you want to do.
Yeah, so I think that's another thing, right? It's learning how to protect your time in your 20s, but also how to prioritize your
Mhm.
time.
How to
So that,
manage it.
yeah, so that you can get things done and enjoy yourself too. Because balance is so critical in life,
Yeah. Because especially in your 20s, you have so much energy. I'm not saying you don't have energy in your 30s, because I feel like I have just as much energy, but for most people,
Yeah.
right?
Of
You have
course.
so much energy in your 20s. The world is fresh and new to you.
Yeah.
I think spend your 20s exploring
Yeah. That's great advice.
and exploring, learning,
I think taking risks,
taking risks,
calculate risks, right?
calculated
Don't be
risk.
reckless, but
Yeah. I think
Mhm.
that's the one thing I didn't do in my 20s, is to take risk. I went for what I think or thought was safe.
Right. Because that's what we were taught too.
Yeah.
Society, right? And all that.
Yeah. And I didn't know better.
Exactly.
I didn't know that there were
Other paths.
other paths, or I didn't really have any a lot of people in my life that took a non-traditional path.
Yeah.
Right. We were all geared towards
Academic,
education,
yeah.
and we were getting compared to which school we got
Right,
into.
right.
And thank God I got into a good school.
Yeah.
But looking at it back at it now, I would have liked to, even if I was taking the safe path, I guess during my extra time, I wish I would have explored and let myself explore in non-traditional paths as well.
Yeah. Just
Just-
learn about other things.
Yeah.
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 I think that's super important.
Or
And
even take a gap year. I thought
interesting.
about that.
Yeah.
But I folded to the pressure
Right,
of
right.
having to go of going to college.
Yeah, that would have been cool, right? Like I always, with the one thing I kind of regret in college would be not having done the study abroad program. I wanted to do it, right? Same thing, right? Like I was like, oh, that's interesting. I scared myself out of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, but that's gonna put me behind in school, or it's gonna cost a lot of money. I just kept finding excuses,
Yeah.
basically to convince myself to not go.
Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, if I had gone, I would have gone traveling a lot sooner and found how much I love it, and
Hmm.
built some unbelievable memories from that.
Yeah. Or lessons.
Yeah. Yeah, you could have learned a lot for
Yeah.
sure. A lot about independence and being on your own and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think for kind of our perspective, like you said earlier, use your 20s as a time to really go out there, take some calculated risk. It's okay because if you mess up, the consequence isn't really that big. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You don't have as much to lose in your 20s as
Yeah.
you do as you get older.
Yeah.
When you have a family or people that rely on you and things like that.
Yeah.
I think also just look at it as a way to how you spend your 20s is how you're going to set up your next decade, like for us, right?
Yeah.
And how you spend whatever time that you have at that moment. I think it's important to just see, is it helping you or is it hurting you,
Mm.
and then evaluate it through that
Yeah.
lens.
Yeah. And I think looking back at it now, in my 20s, I'm still glad that I did what I did,
Yeah.
right?
You're
It's
not
not,
living a life of regret.
no, I'm not, absolutely not. But, Will and I were just going back and just wishing these were the lessons we knew,
Sooner.
not because we regret our 20s.
Right.
I think, we did a great job in our 20s,
Pretty good.
not knowing not knowing what we know now.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And this is why we're releasing this, is hoping that whoever's listening to this
Yeah.
can get even a better start,
Right.
or
Maybe we can open their eyes a little bit too.
exactly.
Yeah.
And use this as a resource to
Yep.
think about what they're going through, because when you're in it you can't see it.
Yeah.
And if they felt the same things we did, then maybe this will help them.
Absolutely. Wow, that's really good. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It's kind of like if we were back in a young Will, like
Yeah.
18 years old Will, or 20 years old, I guess we're talking about 20s, but let's say at that point, if I had known about, or if I was exposed to these kind of like resources or these conversations, I may not necessarily have done exactly what that person was saying, but it would have got me thinking. I think that's the big thing, right? It gets you really start looking at and saying and asking yourself questions, right?
Yeah.
To think along those lines, to think about what you want and those factors.
Yeah.
You know?
And the beauty of life is that you don't have to do one thing. You could still do the conventional path and do something on the side that is risky.
Yeah, sure.
Right? That's the beauty of this, is that we're not steering you one way versus another way.
Hmm.
But it's nice because if you know about it, you can do multiple things.
You have options.
You have options.
You have multiple paths, and who's to say you can't go, like you said, do both,
Do both.
right? Maybe one to a lesser degree as a side hustle, and then focus on that, and then your side hustle can eventually become your main passion or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, like recognizing that it's never too late, right? If you want to change, make a change in your life, or if you want to pivot, if you want to do something differently, don't focus so much on the path. Learn from it, of course, reflect and use that as a guide. But I think don't dwell on it and just realize that you have the power, right, to change any day that you want.
Yeah.
Really. It's not too late. You're not too old. You're not too, right?
No. There's people that are in their 50s, 60s going back to school.
Yeah.
There's
Pretty cool to see.
It's super cool.
Very impressive.
Very impressive. That's very inspiring, right?
Yeah.
It shows you it doesn't matter what age you are.
It's the determination. Do you really want something?
Yeah, and I think that's beautiful, is that you can change any time you want.
What a gift, right?
You can redefine your life at any moment.
It's amazing. It's like one of the most beautiful things that we have access to.
Mhm.
Not everybody can do that
No.
around the world.
No, and you're right. It was something, we stop to think about is not everywhere in the world is there internet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And with the internet, you can basically learn any skill
Yeah.
you want.
It's pretty crazy.
And connect to anyone you want.
Yep.
Within the industry
There's no more
to help you. So there really isn't an excuse to not changing the life to the life that you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Wow. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff on there. So we hope you guys found that helpful, enjoyable. Yes.
Yeah.
And
fun.
Yep. So make sure to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel at Magnetic Mismatch, and our Instagram, same handle. And also to
tune in every Thursday. That's my only line.
That's your cue.
That's my cue. Only every Thursday. And
to share the episode, of course, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts. Make sure to subscribe to that. Give us a 5-star rating and review. And then also we're available on other platforms like Stitcher, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, so on and so forth. All right.
Until then, bye.
Until next time, guys.
See
Bye.
you Thursday.
Yeah. Bye.